it's Botanical Brian and Grace Ames here at Colonial Gardens, out in the perennial section of Colonial Gardens. And I can't believe it's already week number 7 of our Colonial Learning Gardens.
I know, right? I'm having so much fun gardening with you and all of you. Not only are we learning about our gardens, but we're learning about pollinators and so much more. We've learned what pollination is and why it's important. We've learned how pollinators help us provide food and keep us alive with sustenance, right? Yes. We've talked about different kinds of pollinators, all different kinds. Botanical Brian, just a quiz. I know it's a pop quiz, but do you remember the pollinators?
So I remember a few of them. My favorite was the honey possum, and I want to see a honey possum pollinate one of these days. But I also remember that butterflies and bees were also pollinators.
Yes, and hummingbirds. We also have beetles, flies, moths, ants, wasps, and so many more. I'd love to know what you guys are hearing or seeing or learning about pollinators and what you've seen on your gardens or anywhere else for that matter.
And just like there are different types of pollinators, there's many different types of pollinators, there's also many different types of flowers that the pollinators love to visit. And so pollinators are attracted to different flowers for different reasons. And flower color is one. Check out all the different flower colors that we have here. And some pollinators love the bright colors. Some pollinators really don't care what the flower looks like as far as the color.
If I was a pollinator, I'd be over here in these orange and reds and yellows. I love these.
I think I might be hanging out in the purple. But you know what I'd be going for is fragrance. I love the fragrance of flowers, and certain pollinators like bees like a beautiful sweet fragrance. And so they will come and visit a plant because they smell the nectar, they smell the fragrance. But other pollinators are attracted to nasty, terrible, sour, terrible fragrances, and those would be things like flies. So flies come to nasty smelling plants and they pollinate them. Pretty cool, huh?
You know, Brian, some days I get bees attracted to me, and at the end of a long work day, I might have a little too many flies.
A few flies might be flying around you. Another reason that pollinators visit certain flowers are the shape of the flower. So there are flowers like this that have a almost a perfect landing pad for a butterfly or a bee to just come flying in and sit there and drink the nectar. Other flowers, like this one here, are trumpet shaped. And so you can imagine a hummingbird coming and visiting that and putting his little beak all the way in there to get the nectar, and then the pollen would be stuck to him. So different types and different shapes of flowers depend on different pollinators.
Okay, but it's not just the shape of the flower, right?
That's right.
It's so much more than that. Really, the plant is so important for the life cycle of a butterfly, and that's one of the big pollinators that we are trying to attract with our garden. So can you show us the butterfly weed here?
This is butterfly weed, Asclepia, and this is butterfly weed, two different. This is regular Asclepia or just good old Asclepia tuberosa. This is called swamp butterfly weed.
So this is the swamp, right? It's flower. Oh, Brian, this is not a pollinator. Gotta get rid of that guy. Small purple flower, small orange flower. The leaves look a little different, but they're in the same family. They are the same. And what happens here is that your butterfly actually just wants to come and lay their egg on this plant. That is the larval stage. So butterflies lay their eggs on these plants or plants like fennel or parsley, which you guys are growing.
Right here, on the leaves.
Okay, and then after the egg is laid, after a few days, it hatches. This is the larval stage. It hatches into a caterpillar. The caterpillar eats through the leaves. Nom, nom, nom.
Yes,
Sunday, the
eats the leaves. So if you
leaves.
see the caterpillar eating your leaves, don't kill the caterpillar. It's all good. That's just part of the life cycle.
Right. Friendly pollinator plant, bugs and insects, and then others that are not so friendly. Kill the not so friendlies. Caterpillars we want, guys. All right, so after the caterpillar has eaten its fill of leaves and cake and cookies and soda.
Oh, just leaves.
Just leaves. It fills itself up, and then it forms a chrysalis, or it builds a little house around itself. This is the pupal stage. It will spend time in there, break itself down, and transform into a butterfly. And so it emerges from that chrysalis. It looks different than it did when it went in. It has wings, and this is the adult stage of that pollinator.
Yes, yes.
So, Brian, did you know that monarch butterflies migrate from Mexico to Canada every year? every year. That's over 3,000 miles,
3,000
guys.
miles the butterfly migrates in 1 year.
So if I had to like just walk from my house to work every day, I'd get tired.
That's right.
How does a butterfly do that?
So a big part of it is this guy right here, is the butterfly weed. It as it's moving, it just keeps the life cycle going, and it moves all the way across the United States. And that's what is so important about the landscape. If you don't have Asclepia in your landscape, they're gonna not have anything to eat, and then they may just not be able to make that trip.
Yeah, that's a big thing, guys. We're planting pollinator gardens because it's so important for the life cycle of monarchs and bees and so many other things. But the habitat is kind of dying out because we do things like build parking lots or parking garages, and we don't always remember to put the things that are beneficial back so that the butterflies have a landing spot.
Yes.
So that is one of the big reasons that we're growing these pollinator gardens. If you want to keep helping plant some Asclepia or butterfly weed, what other ways do we have to help?
So some other things you can do is if you have to use pesticides, use them in the evening. Don't use them while the pollinators are out and about. And then also, this sounds crazy, but leave some sticks and some logs and things like that in your yard, in the landscape, because the different pollinators will use them as a place to hide and a place to get away from the elements. So those are two things that you can also do. And plant all these different flowers so that they can come and visit your yard and get all that pollen.
Awesome. So now that we've seen all of these beautiful things and thankfully no stinky things that are pollinators, let's check out our gardens. How
Okay,
about
I'm
that?
gonna move this out of the way. Pretty smooth transition there.
Oh, look at us go.
All right. So he's coming along pretty good. You can see the fennel is coming up a little bit bigger.
Tasty.
That's getting a little bit bigger. So both of these, just like we said earlier, those are pollinator host plants. So what we're hoping is that the butterfly visits, lays eggs on these two, the eggs hatch, turn into a caterpillar, and the caterpillar actually eats our parsley and eats our fennel.
So I don't see any of our eggs and pollinators yet. Yours are a little bigger than mine, of course, and still nothing. But Brian,
Not yet. Still early in the season though.
I was out in the flower field without you, last week, and I was seeing buds on our flowers that we planted a little earlier
Yes.
out in the field. How long do you think it's going to be before we start seeing buds and then
A couple more
blooms?
weeks and we should have flowers.
I am so excited to
Me
see
too.
what color ours turn out to
Yes.
be and how many flowers we get. But also I wanted to point out this fennel looks great. If I wanted a little addition of flavor in my food, I might pick off just a tiny little frond here and eat that.
Yeah, I'll take a taste. It tastes like licorice.
Yeah, it does.
Really good.
So give it
No
a nice
wonder the
smell.
butterflies like that.
That's delicious, right? It's basically candy. So here's what ours look like. I know it's not that exciting right now, but keep watering. Keep them in the appropriate light and the appropriate shade. Like we told you guys last week, ours were too wet and too shady, but they're doing much better now. So keep telling us where yours are. Maybe yours is little, maybe yours is tall. Let us know if you guys see any buds, because you might. Yours might be growing better than ours were that were in the shade and getting too wet. So
Yes.
keep us posted, and we'll see you again next week.
See ya.